Welcome back to the channel Coin Dealer everyone, and thank you for joining today's fascinating deep dive into one of the most incredible stories in numismatics, a tale that blends mystery, history, error, and unimaginable value as we explore the unbelievable worth of a simple 1964 D Lincoln penny that, under the right circumstances, could be valued at a jaw-dropping $95 million despite its face value being just 1 cent, and the reasons behind such astronomical worth are rooted in a combination of minting errors, die varieties, misplaced mint marks, striking anomalies, and the intense collector demand that emerges when rarity and mistakes intersect to create numismatic legends. Because when you hold a coin that the mint never intended to produce in that particular way, or that has a flaw so unique it exists only in a handful of known examples, you are no longer holding pocket change but rather a historical artifact that embodies a moment frozen in metal, an object that links directly to human error, technological limitation, and the unpredictable outcomes of mass production at the United States Mint during the 1960s, a decade when billions of pennies were struck but only a select few managed to slip through with imperfections so pronounced that they later became treasures. The 1964 D penny, struck at the Denver Mint, is particularly fascinating because this year was marked by extraordinary coinage production as the mint scrambled to meet the overwhelming public demand for small change, and in such rushed conditions, errors were inevitable, with double dies, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, and planchette anomalies surfacing. Yet what makes this coin even more remarkable is the possibility of transitional errors, for instance pennies that may have been struck on leftover planchets from previous years or on planchets intended for different denominations entirely, which if authenticated can elevate the value into staggering heights, and the 1964 D penny's lore is built around whispers of such discoveries, pieces that may have a misplaced D mint mark, where the mint worker attempted to stamp the D more than once, or where the punch was misaligned, creating a blurry or doubled appearance that catches the trained eye of collectors who understand just how significant such flaws are. Furthermore, the double die error, where the die itself impressed the coin with a doubled image, especially noticeable on the date, motto, or lettering like "In God We Trust and Liberty," adds yet another layer of desirability, because coins with dramatic doubling are some of the most highly prized in the world of numismatics, commanding 6, 7, or even 8-figure sums in pristine condition. And when this doubling combines with a mispunched mint mark or other striking anomaly, the rarity compounds exponentially. Collectors are also drawn to off-metal strikes, where a penny is accidentally struck on a dime planchette or even on a foreign coin planchette that happened to be in the mint machinery at the time, creating coins that technically should not exist, and the 1964 D penny has long been rumored to have such instances, a factor that keeps specialists and treasure hunters poring over their pocket change in hopes of spotting one of these elusive marvels. The high valuation of $95 million often cited in stories about the 1964 D penny is not just about one coin's existence but about the idea that somewhere, out there, such an extraordinary specimen may surface, one that combines multiple error types, one that survived undetected in circulation for decades, one that represents the pinnacle of minting oddities. And this drives both speculation and market hype, as collectors are willing to pay enormous sums for the privilege of owning what may be the rarest of the rare. Another factor fueling the mythos of the 1964 D penny is its timing, because the mid-1960s saw the transition away from silver coinage, the Coinage Act of 1965 reshaping the composition of U.S. coins, and amid this chaos and rapid change, mistakes were more likely to happen, so transitional errors from 1964 carry special historical weight, especially if they reveal evidence of being struck on the wrong composition or during a period of experimental adjustments at the mint. When a coin like this is authenticated by reputable grading services, encapsulated, and given a unique designation, its value skyrockets beyond what anyone would expect from a copper coin weighing just over 3 grams, because it is no longer evaluated as money but as a collectible art piece, a historical relic, and a financial asset all rolled into one. The allure of the 1964 D penny valued at $95 million lies in the intersection of rarity, error, history, and human fascination with the idea that something so ordinary could turn out to be so extraordinary, and while not every 1964 D penny in circulation is worth such a fortune, the possibility that one could be harboring these unique and dramatic errors is enough to keep the hunt alive. And that thrill of discovery is at the heart of coin collecting, where the dream of finding a once-in-a-lifetime rarity in pocket change drives both seasoned experts and curious newcomers. Every scratch, every detail, every misplaced mint mark tells a story, and in the case of the 1964 D penny, that story could lead to riches beyond imagination, reminding us all that sometimes the smallest objects can carry the greatest secrets, and the face value of 1 cent can be transformed into an artifact that embodies history, error, and the unquenchable human desire to uncover hidden treasure. History, mistakes, rarity, and the incredible possibility of turning what looks like an ordinary piece of pocket change into something worth millions, and in today's discussion we are focusing on the legendary 1975 D penny, the 1 cent coin that in certain special circumstances and with specific minting errors has been rumored to reach a value as astonishing as $89 million, which is so far beyond its ordinary face value of just a single cent that it almost sounds unbelievable. But as we go deeper you will see why collectors, numismatists, and treasure hunters keep their eyes open for such coins and how small details can turn copper into gold, figuratively speaking, because the story of the 1975 D penny is wrapped up in the way coins are produced, the role of mints, the kinds of errors that can occur, and how those errors create scarcity and desirability in a marketplace that thrives on uniqueness, rarity, and the passion of collectors. And when we look at a standard 1975 penny, we know it was struck during a time when the US Mint was still making pennies primarily out of copper rather than the copper-plated zinc that became common after 1982, so each penny contained about 95% copper and weighed around 3.11 grams. But what makes some of the 1975 Denver Mint pennies unusual are not just the metal composition but the kinds of mint mark errors, die mistakes, double strikes, off-center strikes, and other unusual imperfections that slipped through quality control and ended up in circulation, and it is precisely those slips and mistakes that transform a penny into something extraordinary, because collectors are willing to pay unimaginable sums for coins that are truly one of a kind, and the lore around the 1975 D penny reaching a worth of $89 million is tied to the possibility of multiple overlapping errors existing together. Perhaps a coin struck on the wrong planchet, maybe even struck on a silver or foreign coin blank by accident, or having a missing or misplaced D mint mark, or showing doubling on the date or lettering, and these combinations of errors mean the coin is not just rare but potentially unique, and in the collector's world unique means priceless or at least extremely valuable, and this is why a coin that everyone assumes is only worth 1 cent can instead spark dreams of millions. Because in numismatics the relationship between face value and collector value is not logical or fixed but is driven by supply, demand, rarity, and the desire to own a piece of history that no one else has, and when rumors and stories circulate about a coin like the 1975 D penny being auctioned or privately valued at such astronomical figures, it fuels even more fascination and excitement among the public, leading everyday people to check their pocket change and old jars of coins hoping to stumble upon a fortune hiding in plain sight. And while not every 1975 D penny will be worth millions, in fact most of them are still worth just a cent or perhaps a small premium if they are in mint state condition, the mere possibility that a coin exists with the right combination of errors is enough to create a legend, because numismatics is full of examples where overlooked coins suddenly came into the spotlight, such as the famous 1943 copper penny or the 1955 double-die Lincoln cent, both of which turned into iconic rarities fetching huge sums, and the 1975 D penny joins that company in the imagination of collectors as the next mythical piece, because when you hear of a penny valued at $89 million it stirs both skepticism and excitement, but also emphasizes how much errors and mint mark mistakes matter in determining value, since the D mint mark signifies the Denver Mint, but when that mark is missing, doubled, misplaced, or otherwise flawed it instantly sets the coin apart. And when combined with striking errors or unusual planchets, the value can escalate exponentially, and that is why this story endures, because the world of coin collecting is not just about currency but about discovery, luck, and the thrill of holding something rare that tells a bigger story about history, production, and human error. And if you are listening today you may be wondering if you should go digging through old change collections, searching for that 1975 penny with the mysterious error that could be life-changing. And while the chances are astronomically slim, the truth is that coins like these do exist, hidden away until someone sharp-eyed recognizes the difference, and that is the beauty of numismatics, where one person's overlooked penny is another person's jackpot, and the tale of the 1975 D penny said to be worth $89 million is a perfect reminder of why so many people fall in love with coin collecting, not because of guaranteed riches, but because of the possibility, the chase, the history, and the idea that tiny details can create treasures, and so as We wrap up this exploration. Remember that the next time you look at a penny, even one as ordinary as a 1975D, you might want to look just a little closer, because the difference between 1 cent and 89 million could be right in the details of an error, a mint mark, or a small imperfection that turns the ordinary into the extraordinary. Where we dive deep into the fascinating and often unbelievable world of rare coins, and in this case, we're focusing on one particular piece that has captured the attention of collectors, treasure hunters, and enthusiasts worldwide, the 1979 1-cent penny, a coin that on the surface appears to be nothing more than a humble copper-colored piece of pocket change, but through a combination of minting mistakes, historical quirks, and extraordinary rarity, has been valued by some at an astonishing figure of around $65 million, far beyond its modest face value. And what makes this story even more compelling is how such a tiny coin, something millions of us have handled without much thought, can become a symbol of hidden fortune simply because of errors and details that most eyes would normally miss. So let's break this down and understand what makes this particular penny so special. Because it's not just about age or appearance, but about the fascinating world of mint errors, rarity, and human fascination with owning a piece of history that shouldn't exist the way it does. The 1979 penny was struck during an era when the United States Mint was already transitioning with materials and techniques, and while most coins that rolled out of the presses were standard copper pennies of their time, certain ones emerged with irregularities that went unnoticed until much later, and these irregularities are what fuel the market value today, because coin collectors, especially those specializing in error coins, place enormous value on uniqueness and impossibility. So when a coin deviates from the official design or shows mistakes caused during minting, it essentially becomes a one-of-a-kind artifact. Among the most discussed possibilities are double die errors, where the coin was struck twice with slight misalignment, causing doubling on letters or numbers such as the date, the word liberty, or in God we trust, and these double details, while subtle, completely change the coin's classification, turning what would be a worthless penny into a collector's dream. And when authenticated, these mistakes can skyrocket in value because not many survived circulation or were even recognized by the public. Then there are off-center strikes, another type of error, where the design is not perfectly aligned on the blank planchet, resulting in missing parts of the imagery or numbers, and depending on how severe this misalignment is, the more dramatic and valuable the coin becomes, because again, rarity in numismatics is king, and a penny missing portions of its design stands out like a fingerprint. There are also theories that certain 1979 pennies were struck on the wrong metal planchets, possibly leftover from previous years or test strikes using different compositions, and if a coin meant to be a copper penny was accidentally struck on a foreign coin blank or even a transitional alloy, it creates something so rare that it draws international attention. Another interesting factor tied to 1979 pennies is mint mark anomalies, as coins were produced at various U.S. mints including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, and any mispunched mint mark, whether it be doubled, misplaced, or struck over another, can result in unique variations, and in the collector's world, these mint mark errors are especially sought after because they are identifiable and documented, and once certified by grading services, their values climb into astronomical figures. Now when you combine the possibility of a 1979 penny with multiple errors, for example, a double die with an off-center strike or a rare mint mark, suddenly you have what some collectors call a holy grail coin, something virtually impossible to replicate, and in the fevered world of auction houses and private sales, such a specimen could theoretically reach mind-boggling prices. Not because the coin's intrinsic metal is worth much, but because of the story, the impossibility, and the bragging rights attached to owning something no one else has. And this is where that eye-popping figure of $65 million comes into play, because when we consider how markets for collectibles can escalate, like paintings, rare stamps, or even baseball cards, a unique error coin can fetch whatever someone is willing to pay, and given the prestige of being the only person in the world to own such a rare 1979 penny, the bidding wars could indeed push the price into tens of millions, even if the face value is just a cent. It's also important to note that many people who discover unusual pennies in their change immediately hope they've stumbled upon a fortune, but the truth is, authenticating such coins requires expert grading services like PCGS or NGC, because for every true rarity, there are countless ordinary coins mistaken for treasures, yet the hope of finding one of these error pennies continues to drive fascination, and that's part of the magic, that something so tiny and ordinary can hold such possibility. The cultural impact is also undeniable, because stories of life-changing finds spread quickly, inspiring people to check jars of old change, search through inherited collections, or even buy rolls of pennies from banks just for the thrill of the hunt. And it's that collective excitement, the dream that the next coin in your hand might secretly be worth millions, that keeps the legend of the 1979 penny alive and growing. When you think about it, money was designed to be equal, each coin carrying the same value as any other of its kind. Yet human error and chance intervene, reminding us that even in something as standardized as currency, exceptions exist, and those exceptions can carry stories of history, imperfection, and astronomical worth. So the next time you see a 1979 penny, don't just toss it into the coin jar. Take a closer look, because while the odds are slim, the possibility that you're holding an error coin with doubled features, misplaced mint marks, or unusual planchet composition is still there. And in that possibility lies the reason why collectors dream and why this humble penny can, in the right circumstances, be valued not at 1 cent, but at a staggering $65 million, proof that hidden treasures still exist in plain sight, and sometimes all it takes is curiosity and attention to detail to uncover them.